What's up, guys? Sub-Zero here, back for another VOD review. Today we got something really interesting. So I saw this first on Ginya's Twitter. If you're not familiar with Ginya, Ginya is someone who is constantly posting new TFT tech. I love this this line in their bio. It doesn't increase LP, but it makes me want to TFT based on the auto translation. But they're always posting like new TFT tech. Or buns, I guess, that's what that is. But, you know, things like tier list, this is like more information around how to play around this comp. This is about this like Urgot Tristana comp that we've been talking about. A lot of just, you know, bronze for life stuff that like Soju is yapping about and all this kind of stuff. So just talking about how to play different TFT comps, and they spotlighted a really interesting lull chest today. So this is the lull chest that they spotlighted. Look at this. Every single game, vertical enforcer. 15 out of the last 20 on TF, and I mean, it looks like they stopped forcing it here because maybe they had, you know, I've learned enough, and they immediately went 7-8. But look at this LP graph as well. 0 LP on the 26th. By the end of the 27th, 500 LP. It's legit in like a day, because this looks like it was about the end of the 26th. Probably a really long play session of like 12 hours or something, because there's a lot of games in here. Plus 500 LP, forcing this one comp. And it's interesting. I think most people, you know that Vertical Enforcer is strong. I'm sure if you look at just like emblems here and sort by average placement, Enforcer is, yeah, it's the 6th highest. So people know that Enforcer with an emblem is quite strong. The reason being is that there's only 7 Enforcers in the game. Getting to 8 Enforcer gives you that huge bonus. It's another unit, and then huge increase from 30 to 40%, from 33 to 50% on the shield and the damage amp. So huge bonus here. And obviously hitting a 5th unit, you know, is even better because it allows you to proc this faster and more consistently. But you can't get to 8 without an emblem. And so many people say, if I don't have Enforcer emblem, I'm just not interested in playing Vertical Enforcer. Not for this player. Dooney, I think it's Juhi. I'm pretty sure the Z sound is like J. I know I used to watch LS all the time, and he would say Kajix, which, you know, sorry if I'm mispronouncing. That's all my understanding of how to pronounce things in Korean. But there is one final part to this story, is that this player's name is Dooney Juhi. If you Google this person's name, you actually don't get much. It's actually pretty annoying. You do get a player named Dooney Juni, who is a strong Korean player, and so I thought that this is who it was, but I've gone through all of this player's VODs, and I did not see a single game of this comp, and not a single game played on this account. This player actually, Dooney Zuni, is actually challenger on Korea. So I thought maybe that this was like a Smurf account of theirs, but I can't see a single game of them playing this comp on stream, or just a game on that account whatsoever. So I have to imagine this is actually a completely different player who's maybe, I don't know, a fan of this person. I'm not 100% sure. But that's the difficult thing, is there isn't actually a VOD of this player playing this comp. So what I had to do is find another really strong player, Canbizz, playing this same comp. And like I said, this is not a comp that I think a lot of people are really interested in playing around, not one that a lot of people are really, I don't know, at all in tuned with. And so it was pretty difficult finding this VOD, I would say. But I really wanted to filter down for a VOD where the player did not receive Enforcer +1, because that's what I want to see here, is how strong the 6 Enforcer board is on 8. I guess I can pull up, actually last second, one more. It was a good tweet from Ginya kind of explaining the tech, which is at 4-2, you go for this like cheap board. There's a lot of cheap units on this board. Then you can go 9. GP can hold items eventually for Caitlyn. Eventually, you'll put items onto Caitlyn. So like IE blue buff tends to be really good on Caitlyn. Most people like, why are you going blue buff on Caitlyn? She's a low mana unit, and she also really just cares about getting that first cast off. So that's what we see a lot of in the games from this player. So we're gonna watch Canbizz play. I will say, if anyone has any knowledge where I can get VODs of that player, let me know. But we can watch someone play the same line, essentially, and just, I really want to get a sense for how strong is this line. I think Slammon's basically the only option here, so I think we are going to take that. But yeah, I really just want to get an understanding of like, okay, how do you actually play this line? Just because, yeah, I mean, it's really something that I've seen almost no one really that excited to go for here. We have the slam in here, so we got to make some slams here. You do have an idea of going Morello Edge of Night here, which I think is actually pretty reasonable. He's just going to go for the Edge of Night and hold on to the Morello, not going to slam it onto to TF. But I have to imagine part of this comp is just really, really solid tempo, because there's no way 6 Enforcer caps out insanely high. It's got to be some kind of a tempo board where you just play really, really, really strong early game, save a lot of HP. I mean, I feel like this is actually a perfect idea of how to play it, where you start with Enforcers, obviously, and with Slammin', because I feel like this makes a lot of sense as far as like getting us into that comp in the late game. So we'll see what ends up happening with that entire setup. If we, I mean, I will say for sure we are playing Vertical Enforcer this game, just because I'm not going to bait and switch and put some other kind of comp down here. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really interested to see mostly how this board fares in the early game and the late, like early game, like stage 2. And then late game, stage like 4. We do get the 4 Enforcer in, because one of the reasons why I'm also interested just in this comp is I've played Vertical Enforcer before in the early game, this exact spot for Enforcer here, and I've been really unimpressed with how this board has done, especially, I guess, like after nerfs to Camille and stuff like that, but even prior to that, I've always felt like 4 Enforcer is kind of a mediocre opener. It really feels like one of those boards that comes online once you get to late game. It does feel like sometimes you just run into somebody with a really strong front line, you can't proc that Enforcer early, and then you just end up falling behind because of that, but we'll see here. We have the belts open here for something like a Sterax, or even like a Warmogs, I guess, if we want it. We have the rod open for some kind of AP item. Can take, we really probably wanted to pick up that 2-star there on the Camille, but we are just gonna end up taking belt here. Maybe this is Warmogs. It's kind of interesting because I don't imagine Warmogs being that great in this comp, but I guess we'll see what the slam ends up being. We also have Zeri parry here, so now we can play around that. I have to imagine. Oh, he's actually thinking about Sentinel is in here, and he's going to make the Warmogs here. So, yeah. I mean, Sentinel as the in is reasonable as well, and I think he realized that a decent amount of damage is actually not even coming from this 2-star. Maddie, also nice positioning here to potentially get this snipe here onto the Ziggs. Yeah, that's actually a beautiful change up. The only issue is I don't know if, yeah, I mean, we didn't even end up hitting the Ziggs. We just blasted through the front line. Not bad, though. Another win here, so... Okay, 3 wins so far with everything slammed here. It's got to be, I guess, the other thing to talk about in this comp is you do have item holders for everything. One of the things that Ginyu was talking about in his tweet, actually, is that it's very similar to actually the 4 Emissary board, except it's easier to play than 4 Emissary because you're never stuck like 3 out of 4 Emissary missing, right? You're always just on your way, and you know, if you can get to 6 Enforcer, great. If you have to play 4 Enforcer, perfectly fine. If you miss on the units, it's not the end of the world. We are, it looks like, going to lose this fight to a Nashor's Shojin Silco on level 5. Is this Travis Cat player just a high roller or something? I have no clue. But yeah, I guess we'll see down the line. But I guess the other point that I wanted to make is that you have your AD Bruiser like frontline item holder in the Vi, and then, you know, Camille into that. You have your AP item holder in the TF, and then you have your AD backline item holder into the Maddie. Very similar to how in the Enforcer comp you have Vi / Mbessa, you have Corki, and then you have like Nami is kind of like but like you can make it work. Next set of items here, I'm looking at Hodge here. Seems quite reasonable here. Maybe a Gwinsu. I think that this was called out as a potential item that can be made by on that setup here, but Hodge seems like a very straightforward setup. And actually gonna be Renan's here. Interesting. Renan's not bad onto Maddie. I believe it's gonna proc a few times when she ults. Yeah, it does. So not bad. Interesting. I mean, I guess the idea is that Gwinsu is going to be completely dead later. You can throw it on TF worst case, but it's not amazing. Whereas Renan's is actually a solid AD item. Worst case later, you can put that onto Caitlyn. The stats are pretty valuable. Okay, second augment here. Bad luck protection is actually probably not that bad of a setup here. The only downside is not giving Kate the ability to spell crit later, but he can't play her whole game out for Caitlyn. I mean, certainly not Galimify, and I don't think it's support cash either. I guess support cash probably not terrible. Get like a Banshee's best case scenario. Crown's Will, he could make a death cap. I don't love it. But we reroll here into Law Enforcement, which is, I think, not to say that this is going to bait Canbizz into playing this comp, but it is going to make him much more likely to play this comp, which is good for me. If you guys haven't taken this before, your Enforcers get a bunch of AD, and then every 6 wanted enemies that die, you get 6 gold. This is much better when you have something like 4 Enforcer and eventually 6 Enforcer, because it obviously increases the number of wanted enemies. The only kind of sus thing about this is that it is an econ augment here. So this is our spot here. It's actually pretty interesting. I completely agree with this play. I was perusing this VOD a little bit earlier. I think this is genius from Canbizz in this spot. He actually decides to roll it here because look at our spot pairwise. Always, I talk like when I do coaching, Metafy in the description if you're interested in coaching. I always ask people like, okay, when you roll, what are you actually rolling for in a spot like this or like any spot? And there's actually an insane amount of things to roll for here. We have Steb pair, we have Loris pair, we have Camille pair, we even have Maddie pair to field like a second Maddie on this board if we hit it. We also have the possibility of hitting something else that we can play here, like a sniper for the Maddie or like an ambusher for the Camille. There's so much, even, I mean, not powder pair, but I mean, we could actually sell this, yeah, exactly, for powder pair here. So there's just so many things to roll for here. He rolls it pretty deep actually until he finds Camille here, and then he ends up getting in the Smeech here. We do also, this is something really, really interesting, and I'd love to see the Juhi, fuck, I forget which one it is, but I would love to see their VODs because we roll it down here and we have 7 Maddies at this point. And if you guys were paying close attention to that match history that we were looking at, there were a decent number of games with actually stuff like Maddie 3, stuff like Steb 3. And so I really wonder like how interested is this player in potentially doing what we're doing here and playing around a potential Maddie 3. It definitely seems like something that they were open to. And so perhaps this is actually a part of just playing this Enforcer comp is the 3-2 roll down. Like I said, I mean, it seems to work really, really well for Canbizz here to stabilize. There's a lot of stuff that you can hit because it is a pretty cheap board. Finding stuff like Camille 2 and stabilizing around that seems really, really nice. And yeah, he's just going to put in the other Enforcers onto this board here. Rod is our open component here. Still, I thought for sure it was going to be Morello's. Maybe still it can end up being Morello's here. Looks like he's just going to grab the Alawi here as a better Sentinel to play on this board here. And Glove, you know, you can never be sad about having a Glove on this board. So yeah, also throwing the GP into planner there. There's the Vi, which is fantastic here actually, because this could be 6 Enforcer here. I have to imagine with Law Enforcement, you do want to do that, but let's see here. He's actually not going to go for it. So, oh, wow. That is an idea and a half. All right. 6 Enforcer, level to 0 here. I mean, you're going to get paid back. I was thinking just play 6 Enforcer on this board without leveling just so that you have a little bit of gold to work with. But okay, he's full in on win streak here and just saving as much HP as possible. But I mean, I think with the idea, once again, that this is a tempo comp that is really, really cheap, actually, I think this does make some sense. This is a comp where really you're only playing around a 4 cost, right? You're playing around Vi, and that's basically it on your level 8 board. He's got this Elise in planner, like something like GP Elise could end up being the kind of cap here. So, you know, perhaps that's something that we are going to play around here. We'll see. But even if that's the case, that's 2 4 costs here. It's a really cheap board. 2 1 costs on the board, a 2 cost on the board, a 3 cost. Like there's so many cheap, a couple of 3 costs. There's so many cheap units on this board that really you don't need that much gold. And also, I mean, Canbizz has actually taken huge advantage of his Law Enforcement here, and now that he's getting 6 Enforcer in and hunting down more units, he actually is in a spot where he's like, he's farming a lot of gold actually with this. So you actually see the power of Law Enforcement as just like a win streak augment here. I mean, hunting 4 units means almost every other round, as long as we're winning, we're farming a lot here. All right. Item-wise here, we are looking at, I mean, we'd really like to, I'm curious to see what he's going to kind of like finish his Vi items as, because Edge of Night Hodge, sure, fantastic. We do have the Morello here or the Even Shroud. You can only make one or the other. Death Cap, also a solid TF item, but then like if you were to go something like Death Cap, Even Shroud, I mean, Death Cap, Even Shroud, Last Whisper, honestly doesn't even sound, or yeah, I guess you can't go Even Shroud, Last Whisper, wouldn't be ideal. So it really be Death Cap, Even Shroud, then you hold on to this stuff, or Death Cap, Last Whisper, and then you hold on to this stuff as well for like Sterax and other stuff. We'll see. Morello's, other option would be what? Morello's. He wants to stay away from that Gwinsu, which I think makes sense. And like, then your slams get really, really awkward here. I almost feel like it is Death Cap, but he's looking at the Morello's. We'll see. I'm curious, if he makes Morello here, what are the rest of his slams? Because I feel like they're so tough. And I think he does kind of realize that here. He makes the last... Okay, he is going to make it. So he makes the Last Whisper and the Morellos, and his idea, ooh, Spark. I was not thinking about that at all as an option, just because I feel like this comp does so little magic damage. But at the end of the day, he's got Slammin'. He's just going to make okay enough items, and I think that is the way to play this comp here. So we'll see what the rest of the game looks like. Going to sell the Alawi here. I think this makes perfect sense. Final augment here, portable, climb the ladder. Duo Q actually, 2 random 5 quests. If you can hit a Caitlyn, that is just going to accelerate your ability to, you know, play the game. Also 2 components is not bad. Climb the Ladder also seems pretty solid here. You're playing Vertical Enforcer, so you're going to get a lot of value out of just, you know, allies sharing traits with this. Also, the AD, AP, Armor and Mars seems fantastic. As the other Enforcers die, just making Vi tankier. I feel like I might actually tank this, but you could just risk it on Duo Q. I'm a bit afraid, actually, of taking Duo Q just because it's another Econ Augment, but we'll see. He does go for it. Do we get Caitlyn? No. We don't get rewarded for that. We do get the Rumble, who's a nice in here as well, and he's going to fit the GP in there. Does hit the Caitlyn pretty immediately there, which, you know, call it a high roll, call it whatever you want to, but that's TFT, baby. So he's going to get 6 Enforcer in here, going to move the last Whisper over to Maddie, and then the Morello can move over to, I was thinking Caitlyn, but maybe he's just going to throw it on the Vi here just to have a third item. Looks a bit goofy, but at the end of the day, triple items on units tends to be pretty good TFT. So this is, I would say, like one of the better cases for this comp. Obviously, we almost naturaled, I mean, we essentially naturaled the Caitlyn here, so we're 6 Enforcer. In the kind of like rundown of the comp, I know Ginyo was also talking about how Caitlyn, if you hit Caitlyn early, is just a monster on this board. So I also want to keep track of like how much damage Caitlyn ends up doing on this board, because I really just want to see like, this is probably best case scenario for the comp. How does this do? This also seems like a very reasonable version of the comp, just end up cutting TF here, just because he's really not doing that much, especially, I mean, the only thing is as a Morello holder, he would be kind of nice, and then you could just end up cutting the Steb here, but it looks like he's more interested in holding Steb. Steb is at least a frontliner, which is nice. The other nice thing about hitting the 2-star is that we can actually look at just starting to push levels here, which is really, really nice, pushing 9, allowing ourselves to cap out the board, like I talked about. Pretty cheap comp. We rolled it down, we hit the entire board, and we still have a decent amount of econ left. Takes Belt here. I think, I don't want to peruse anything? I don't know what word I'm trying to think of. Surmise anything? I imagine that other player might have gone for Caitlyn item here and like tier, potentially like blue buff. But I mean, you get to scrap this giant belt. It's pretty nice. He's wondering if it is actually better to play GP or just the better unit in Savika. But I do think the scrap on the belt is actually pretty valuable. So I think this makes sense. And I am really just curious, like, how does 6 Enforcer Vi do? How does she hold up in these fights with all these items slammed? Because we've tempoed this hard. I mean, she's doing a lot of work here, actually. I don't know. I could see the value in this. Also, he's going to opt to not make 30 there. Interesting. Giant size Vi. I wonder if you just take this. It's solid enough. Yeah, I think similar to the Urgot comp, actually, just tank anomalies on units like this, like Vi, that are damage tanky units, I think are pretty reasonable. So yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense. Going to take the Rumble upgrade because his idea is we're just going to keep that on the board forever, probably. And for a while, this is going to be the setup. We have Elise would be a fantastic in here, actually, just to kind of like finish out the traits, get ourselves some extra frontline here. Outside of that, not sure what else we'd really be interested in, but this looks like a great way to cap the board. GP, and usually it's Elise, but if you end up hitting a Rumble in the roll down, you can play Rumble. That was probably also his idea, is that like Rumble is a good pickup from the augment, the Duo Q augment as well. And then obviously items, like there are actually so many units that you can itemize on this board, kind of similar to Emissary. And look at this tanky 6 Enforcer Vi doing a ton of work. Also remember, we still have this actually kind of, what is it called? Suspect, something like that. Law enforcement augment, though I feel like we haven't gotten gold from it in a while. Am I crazy? Is it like bugged out or something? Or maybe I'm just losing it here. All right, he plays Savika on this board. Is that just in case she hits like jackpot and farms you gold? It's actually like a pretty cool little optimization there. Just you have Savika, might as well play her during the round. Item-wise here, yeah, we need a last Vi item, so I think we're looking at Sterax potentially. I mean, Sterax seems better. You could go BT here, I guess, but yeah, I feel like it has to be Sterax, especially with the HP scaling onto this big HP Vi. Gonna move the Morello over to the Rumble, which tends to suck because he already has burn on his ability, but at least it's AP onto the Rumble. I'm surprised they didn't put it onto Caitlyn because I feel like Caitlyn actually applies it really nicely. The downside is, of course, she takes a while to cast, whereas Rumble is going to cast a lot faster. But look at this. We're coasting to level 9. We're still holding on to the 8 Maddies, by the way. If we ever find a random Maddie, we can play for that. And also, look at this shop. Wow. Gonna roll down here. Just get the Echo onto this board, who's a pretty interesting little addition onto it. It's Ambusher, which I can't imagine is very good, but he also does get Scrap in. I don't really see the idea of Echo on this board. Ambusher seems completely worthless here. Like, you're not playing for Camille whatsoever. I mean, it seems fine for now, I guess, but not amazing. Look at that Vi, 8,000 damage. 6 Enforcer Vi, I gotta say, This is not like a low elo lobby, by the way. This is a high, challenger EU West lobby, which, I mean, yes, obviously NA is a better, oh my God, region than EU West. I mean, we all know this. We've all been over this a million times, but, there's still a close, fourth as far as regions go. Sorry to the EU West viewers. Oh, good thing Demacian Raptor doesn't watch all my YouTube videos or he would murder me. Well, he's EUNE, which is, I mean, even a worse server. Look, I don't want to make any enemies out here. It's all flame out of love. Any case, let's go to Carousel here. Looking for probably a final Maddie item now that we have Maddie 3 to play around. Something like that. Deathblade would be reasonable. Even the Shojin seems pretty reasonable as well. But yeah, I feel like Deathblade is the most reasonable in this spot. Just go for big Maddie casts. And yep, Deathblade going there. And we're basically to the board. This is a kind of cool setup. I still don't really love the Echo on this board, but I guess we don't have yet. Like, I really kind of like the idea of Elise, but now I guess Elise doesn't really work on the board, so I guess it has to be Echo. I don't know. It's just, I feel like both of the traits that Echo activates are not real traits. I guess Scrap onto the Rumble is not bad, especially, it's another full item, especially by the time we hit Rumble 2, like it's gonna be nice. We finally lose our streak to this crazy Dominator board with a Victor on it with insane Silco items. I mean, I guess you can, assume that you're gonna lose that fight. And we still have the cap of hitting stuff like Caitlyn 2, like Rumble 2. He's even looking, Canbizz in the spot, looking at potentially going 10 here with the amount of econ that we have, give him a better chance of getting that Urgot to tech in onto the board, which I think makes a lot of sense. I guess I haven't really talked about Vi positioning at all, but it's kind of interesting that he's keeping Vi the entire game in the middle of the board. I feel like oftentimes with melee carries like Vi, you tend to want to put her on the edge so that she can just wrap, but I think he's just thinking of Vi as almost like a damage dealer on this board, just saying like, she doesn't need to wrap, she's just going to punch the front line and do a million damage here, which, I mean, there's nothing I'm missing about Vi's ability, right? I mean, maybe I am. In the shield, slam them, cause a shockwave in their row. I guess that's the idea, is that he's trying to get that extra kind of like AoE damage for the enemies in the row. I guess that's the idea, right? Is that he's trying to get that AoE. Blue buff to Caitlyn. It's Biss. He might, yeah, I think, I mean, let's actually do a stats check here, because I don't play her on this Caitlyn unit whatsoever here. But let's go to Caitlyn. 6 Enforcer, which the stats are probably not gonna be amazing. Yeah, 4.23, but IE, blue buff, yeah, blue buff and IE are fantastic. I mean, GSA and blue buff about the same here. I feel like as a first item, blue buff is actually superior, but I mean, he either doesn't agree with me or isn't a knower. The fact that he is one of the better players in EUS probably means he is a knower and he just doesn't agree with me, which, fair enough. I would have loved to see the blue buff Caitlyn tech, because it's pretty cool. I think it's just, I don't know, people are often like, why blue buff onto Caitlyn? But she's a low mana unit. Like, she's good. She's a good blue buff unit. Pick up Mel here at this point. I have to imagine Mel is better than Echo just for the shielding. Canbizz, he really likes this Scrap here. I mean, it is a full item onto Rumble. The question is a full item onto Rumble and some shield and Ambusher, which seems like nothing, is that better than a Mel on your board? My answer in my heart of hearts is no, but maybe his thought is also like the extra life for Mel doesn't really mean anything. It's top 2 at this point. By the way, 6-2. Both of us have, both these players have tempoed the lobby so hard, and ooh, look at that buy! 7k damage and 6.5k from the Maddie. Really, really high value from Maddie this game. Also, this is going to allow us to push 10. We hit Victor immediately here, which probably is exactly what the doctor ordered for capping out this board. Gonna hold on to potentially Echo Pair here. He's actually just looks like just denying copies of these other 5 costs that the other player needs, which is actually really, really cool. Also, wow, such a smart, just a beautiful cap from Canbizz this game. Not only is he denying the other 5 costs, but he also throws TF into the planner, because what if we get an Enforcer emblem off Carousel here? And there it is. I told you guys I wasn't going to VOD review a game with Enforcer emblem, but look, it's 6-4. I think this is long enough here. Maybe this can be our cap out. We do need to find a TF to be able to actually utilize this here. Just going to Enforcer emblem the Rumble here, which makes a lot of sense. There's a bunch of extra HP onto him. The attack speed not amazing. We do, this is the sampler platter of good units in shop. Also just opts to, for this round, get the Steb off the board and play the double Rumble here, because, why not? Why shouldn't we have it? 30 HP for Travis here, so still a while before the game's going to end. But man, these boards without a lot of single target, I do feel like actually have a lot of trouble getting through this this Vi here. Vi with the tankiness anomaly really just seems almost impossible for them to get through. So I don't know. This is really interesting. Also note just how nice this is, like holding on to the Mordekaisers here. This guy's Mordekaiser paired off. If he hits Mordekaiser too, these fights have been pretty close. That might be enough to swing the fight, but just really, really good, solid TFT play. Deny the Mordekaiser, and it is gonna end up in a first place for Canbizz here. So crazy comp. Like I said, if anyone actually has VODs of the player who's spamming this, let me know. But this was a great game to show off how well it can do without Enforcer +1. Yes, we had that augment that obviously makes us want to play Enforcer, but I mean, what is that? That doesn't really give any combat strength to the board. It makes us play Enforcer, but we still got to see a pretty raw understanding of how strong this board is stage 4 with good item slams and just playing around the Vi. I mean, she actually looked like a monster with 6 Enforcer. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, check my Twitch, all my other links down below, coaching, Metafy in the description if you guys are interested. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.